Hey there, my web crafting wizards. In today's episode, I want to share with you a really powerful headless CMS that's going to take your websites to the next level. So what is a headless CMS anyway? Well, if you remember back in the day, right, if a client would come up to you and ask you for a website, right, or like, hey, can you make me this website? But at the same time, I'm probably going to want changes to it every 2 minutes or so. And then you're like, oh my God, I should have become a hairstylist. So it's the idea of creating a website like a blog post or something where the client can come afterwards and add more content to it, right? Or make changes to that. So you use a CMS for that. The problem was that they were usually tied to something like WordPress, right? So you'd have to make the website and WordPress the template, and then you'd hand that off. Well, a headless CMS exposes just like the API endpoints for that. So what that means is you can create your own website and customize your own website in any way you want with any technologies you want, and then just make a request to the headless CMS to get the data that you want. So we're going to be using Wix Studio's headless CMS, and I'll show you how simple it is and how powerful we can integrate it into our own application. So I'm going to just boot up a React application here, and if you wish, you can follow along with me. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's get started. So we are going to be coding this out in Next.js, which is a really popular React framework. It's probably one of the most popular ones. And then we're going to be using VS Code as well. So let's just install an empty project here. So I'll just copy over this command here, npx create next app at latest, and hit enter. So we're going to give this project a name. I'm going to call this Headless CMS. Woo! Because it's really exciting, okay? That's how I like to name my projects. I add the woo at the end if I really like it. So let's just let this install, and then we're gonna open up the project, and we're gonna head over to our CMS. So while the project is installing here in the background, I'm gonna head over to wix.com/studio, and I'm just gonna head over to my workspace. And what I wanna do here essentially is just create a new website. Now, even though we're not gonna be using this website on its own, we're going to use the headless CMS features associated with it. So I'm going to create a new studio blank canvas here. Let's head back here, see if this is done. Not yet. And there we go, we are in the project. So here, if we go on the left side, as you can see, you're going to have the CMS button here. So let's click on this and hit add to site. And there we go, load it up so we can head over to your collections here. And I'm going to create a new collection. Now, the great thing is you can just do this with AI. So rather than completing all the fields out, this is going to give you like a good starting point. So if I hit next, let's say a client came up to us and they want a blog website, right? They want to blog about their life or their like traveling. So let's just say here, the collection name is going to be a blog. And here we can add details. So we're going to say, create me a base template of a blog CMS. So that would add stuff like when did the post got created, the content of the post, maybe there's an author associated with it. So let's just add that and hit next. We'll complete any additional fields that we want to, but this is going to be a good start. So as you can see, we have title, content, author, data posted, and featured images. And we can also enable this generate content on, which is fantastic. For now, I'm going to turn on this author here, because what we can also do is create relationships between different collections. So I'll show you how we can do that as well. So let's create this collection. And as you can see, it automatically filled this out for us, which is fantastic. So there's one more thing we need to do here is go to more actions, and we are gonna head over to collection settings here. So as you can see, we have blog here. And if you wanna go here to permissions, as you can see, we can select between 3 types here. I wanna go to custom, because you can give different privileges depending who is viewing this website. So if it's just like a visitor, then viewing the content from the CMS, you can just turn that on for everyone. Let's say you have a client in the future that you want them to be able to update and modify content or even delete content, then you can go here to members only and turn those on as well if you want to. So I just turn that on as well. And then your clients, you can set him as a member, and then he'd be able to make those changes. So I'll just hit save now. And I'm gonna create another collection. So let's exit out of this. And I'm gonna create a new collection. I'm gonna start this from scratch because I only wanna really add 2 things here. So I'm gonna call this author. It's gonna have multiple items. Let's say our client asked us, hey, there's a couple of different people that are gonna post on this blog. So I want to distinguish like whose blog post is whose. So for the offer here, let's just change this and edit. And for the field name here, we're not gonna say title, we're gonna say name, like that, and hit save. And we're gonna also add like an avatar, right? Because every offer should also have an image associated with it. So we're just gonna head over here to images, hit next, and let's call this avatar image, or just avatar like that. And let's hit save there as well. Okay, lovely. So there's one more field that I do want to add, is if we go back to the blog here, we can also create a connection to that collection now. A connection to the collection, that sounds funny. So we'll do a multi-reference connection here. So this is going to reference the offer like that, and let's hit save. So now if I click here, I can add a reference, and as you can see, I don't have anyone in there yet, but if I add one person in here, so let's add a name here. I'm going to call myself DevelopedByEd, and the avatar, let's also upload an image here. So there we go, we uploaded this image, and I can just go here and copy the URL for this image and add it. Because for some reason here, if we check this is going to give us a little bit of a problem in Next.js. We'll need to replace this with the copied URL so we can add it to the source of an image. So let's just paste that in there and hit save. Okay, lovely. So now if we head back to all of our blog posts here, I can add a reference, and look, I can say, hey, this belongs to DevelopedByEd. Well, in this case, let's say all of them belong to DevelopedByEd, all of these blog posts. But you can add multiple ones, right? And then you can just reference whoever is the creator of it. So there we go, that's all we need to do. So we can close out of this. Next up, what I'm gonna do is just head over to settings. So if we go to the top left corner here, and we go to site and hit settings. Now if we head over here to settings and head over to the headless settings here at the bottom where it says advanced, let's click on this because we need to set up an OAuth here. So let's create a new OAuth app. We'll name this Headless. Let's call this Headless Blog. We're gonna hit create OAuth app, and here we're gonna have a secret code that we can add to our Next.js application to make those fetch requests. So there we go, we should get this client ID that we can copy over. Please don't use this one, get your own, okay? I'm gonna change this after the video, but yeah, so this is where you get it from. And now if we head into VS Code, here we can create a new file in the base directory called .env.local, and this is used to save very sensitive information like passwords or like credentials for making requests. So we're gonna call this, let's call this client ID. I'm gonna do it all uppercase and just paste in that string. Okay, so we can close out of this, and the last thing we need to do is install two packages. So I'm gonna hit npm I here, and I'm gonna say add Wix -SDK, and one more is add Wix -data, like that. So let's install these two packages and we are ready to go. So to start up this project, we can run the command npm run dev. Let's open this up, and there we go. So let's open this up, and I'm just gonna put it to the side panel right here so we can see what's going on. So there we go, there's our website. So to modify this, we can just head over here to our app and in our page. And as you can see, this is where all that code is. So let's just close off that tab here, and we can clean up pretty much everything. Okay, so the way we can render out this data is we can head over to this component here and just add async to it, which means that we can do asynchronous fetches on the server side. So to do that, we're gonna instantiate this Wix client. So let's set that equal to, oops, sorry, my apologies. We need to do this. I need to do the return here like that. So let's just wrap this in a return. And up here, I can instantiate that Wix client. So this is gonna be create client, and we can import this. As you can see, it recognizes it as Wix SDK. So I'm gonna hit enter. There we go, we're gonna open this up, and the modules here I'm gonna pass into are gonna be the items. All right, now this needs to be imported from the Wix data. So we can go here to the top and import that. So it's just the items that we need here. And we'll add a comma, and the OAuth to authorize this, we'll need to pass down this OAuth strategy from the Wix SDK. And all we need to do here is just pass down that client ID. Now we have this in that env file here. So how can we access that? Well, we can access any file, any secret here in the env local by just saying process.env dot, and then whatever name it has. So client ID, like that. And I'm going to add the banger symbol here, an exclamation mark, to basically say, hey, this is a string, and it's going to work. Okay, so that's it. That's the Wix client there. And now here, we can actually get that response from the CMS. So I'm going to call this post response, set that equal to await. I'm going to say Wix client items, and I'm going to query all the data items here. And the data collection ID for this is posts, right? That's what we named it. Let's double check that to make sure. If we head back here, go to the site. Oh, we called it blog. Okay, so not posts, we called it blog. So let's change this to blog. There we go. We're gonna pass consistent read true here. This is gonna make sure that it's always up to date with the data. And finally, we're gonna add a referenced item options. And here you can reference any other collection that you want. So the field name here is gonna be, well, what is the other one? Offer, right? So let's go here and just say offer. And that's that. That should do the trick. And at the end here, we can also do checks like exists or add a limit to it or skip certain blog posts. But for now, we're just gonna say find, which is just gonna query all of them for us. Let's actually go here to the collection name and actually change this to posts. I feel like that makes a tad bit more sense. So I'll just do this instead and hit save. So there we go. Switch this over to posts and everything still stays the same. So we can just modify this to posts as well. So I just added a couple of images as well here in my posts. So if we have a look, see, as you can see, I filled this up with featured images and the content here as well. Now for the content here, technically, like we could change this for it to be a tad bit better rather than being a text. We can make it a rich text or with rich content. And that way you can attach like images to it as well. You know, format your paragraphs and headers and whatever you want. Okay, so now that we have the data to work with, let's just minimize this a tad bit and let's query this data. So we have our post response, and this is actually where all of our posts with the authors are, right? So now what we can do here is pull out those items. So we can say const. One thing I want to show you, if we console log this out, post response, is that each post here, let's see if we can see this. As you can see, it fetches the data for us, but if we expand that data, the author is not going to have the full data there. It's only going to hold a reference over to the author. So to actually get the author as well, what we can do is grab the posts here. So we can say const posts, and we can say equals to post response dot items. This gets the individual items, and then we'll map over this. So we're like looping over all of them. So I'm going to say authors data is equal to, I'm going to say wait promise.all, because this is going to make another request. And I'm going to say posts.map. So I'm basically looping over them. This is going to be an asynchronous function because it's going to take some time to come back from the network. I'm going to expand this open. And I'm going to say here const offer response is going to be equal to, and I'm going to make another request. So it's going to be await Wix client the items, query data items. Here, let's open this up, and the data collection ID is going to be offer. And I'm also going to pass down the consistent read to true. And that's pretty much it. At the end here, we're going to add a find as well, like that. And here, after the find, I'm going to return both posts and the offer, which is going to be coming from this offer response. I'm going to say items 0 because it's going to be the first one, and data, like that. Lovely. And now we have everything, so we can just return at the end here. Let's see where this is going to be. Yeah, right here we can return post and the offer null in case, you know, something went wrong here and it couldn't return it. And that's pretty much it. We are ready to pull all this information in. So we're going to keep the H1 here, but let's go below that. We're going to create a section. And in the section, I essentially want to go over to the author's data and map over this, right? And here we're going to have access to each individual field. And then I can just create a div here, right? So let's create a div. I can add an image in here. So let's add an image. And I can set the source of this image, right? So where is this coming from? To field post dot data. As you can see, we have the TypeScript as well there, which is fantastic. And this is going to be the, what did we call this? Featured image. So featured image. All right, this is coming from here. So if we check on posts, open this up, as you can see, we have tags and we have featured image here. Lovely. So let's pull that in. I'm gonna add a question mark here in case the data doesn't come back. And there's a couple of other things we can add, like a width and a height to this. So I'm just gonna come here, add a width and a height. And finally an alt tag as well, which I'm gonna pull from the title, like that. Now, if you get this message here, in Next.js, you need to add the host name from like where you're requesting the image from. So that's super simple. We can just head over to Next config here on the left side. And what we can paste in here is this images array. So if we open up this Next config, we can paste this in images, remote patterns, and we just add the host name of Wix static in there. And that should work now. So if we head back here, if we refresh, it should. You might need to restart this here. Looks like you don't even need to do that. Okay, but if it doesn't work, Control C and then npm run dev again. But look at that, we got all the images there, which is fantastic. So now we have the ability to customize this any way we want. So let's say we want to make this a grid, right? So I can add a class name here. I'm using Tailwind, which makes it quite simple. So I can say, hey, make this a grid. I can also say, hey, on large screens, the grid calls should be 3. On mobile, it should be grid calls 1. We should also add a gap of 12 in between them like that. So let's add a gap of 12 and let's hit refresh here. Oops, the reason why this doesn't work is because I need to add this class name on the section actually, like that. There we go. See, we have more space now. Lovely. So grid calls 3. So when we expand this to a large viewport, as you can see, boom, look at that, automatically responsive. How fantastic is that? I love it. Okay, I just love working with Tailwind, just makes everything so easy. Okay, so there's our image as well. And then down here, let's say we want to add the title as well, right? So we can do field dot post dot data, and then we can extract the title. I think it's uppercase, this one. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. It might be lowercase title. Yeah, there we go. Lovely. So there we go. We can also add a text XL to this if we want. There we go. Make it much larger. That looks better. We can also add a font of medium to this to make it a bit thicker like that. That looks great. Okay. And then we can also like display the author if we want to. So I can head down here below this and do another div. And in this div, I'm gonna add an image tag, and the source here is gonna be the avatar, right? So I'm gonna pass that in right here. So field author avatar like that. Now, I believe I used my my Google avatar here, so I'm just gonna add this host name as well. I just copied over my Google image. So let's head over to Next config here. I'm gonna add a comma here. And I'm gonna say host name, just paste this one in as well. If you added your image on Wix, then you're not gonna have that problem. Okay, lovely. So look at that, there's our little image of the user that created this post. Fantastic. So one more thing, we can head over here, add a p tag as well, and say field author title. So name, I think we named it, right? Or username, something like that. Let's see if it pops up. Okay, it looks like it's not named, so let's have a look. Author. It looks like we added title. Okay, cool. Let's just change it to title. We can modify this after. There we go, DevelopedByEd. So if I want this to come like all beside each other, I can add a flex there with an items of center. There we go, and we can add a gap of 2. Maybe I don't want this to be like super huge, so we can go here to the paragraph and add a text extra small to that with a font of medium. And there we go, look at that. We are rendering out all of our different blog posts. How can I actually like click on this and it should take me to that specific blog post with the URL? Because that's what we're like really aiming for, right? So what I'm gonna do is wrap this image up with a link tag like this. So a link tag, and just wrap the image over it like that. And I'm gonna go here And what I'm going to do is add a href. And I'm going to say, hey, this is going to take me over to backticks. And I'm going to say $ curly brackets. This is how we can add the field, post, and I can just add the ID of that post, right? So now when we click on something, it's going to add the ID there. Look at that. Now this page is not found because this is a dynamic page, meaning that the different blog posts, right, are rendering out a different page because they have different URLs. So to get around that in Next.js, what we can do is add a folder here called ID like that with curly brackets. And here we can add a page.tsx the way we did it before. And I'll copy this over because the functionality is pretty much the same. So we instantiate the Wix client. We do the same request here on the post detail, but one thing I'm going to do here is a bit different, is I'm going to call this generate static params. And this is a special function that Next.js provides. So when you're launching the website, before the website actually gets built out, it's going to make a request over to the Wix servers, and it's going to generate the HTML pages for you as static pages. So when you go on the website and you click between these, it's going to be instant. It's going to be super, super fast, which is really cool. So this is that generate static params here. All right. And there we go. So here we're requesting again the data item, and then we are just rendering out whatever, right? We can render out the content. And there we go. Down here, I just rendered out the content. If you don't see anything working here, it might be because it's getting cached. So go to inspect elements, right click here and do an empty cache if you don't see this content show up. So it's all about how you want to format it here. I can add a class name of text, leading of relaxed. That's going to give us a bit more space between the paragraphs like that. And again, you can customize this any way you want. So there we go. Oh, look at that. You have a dynamic page now with its own like blog post made in just a couple of minutes. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you used before for a headless CMS. If you have you experimented with it or not? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Consider dropping a subscribe and a like. I'd appreciate that a lot. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.